Welcome to the Operations Radnor office. Nice little place that they have here. And figured we probably all fit okay, and it seems like we're going to. At any rate, welcome. We're going to have a pretty busy night as far as things going on. We've got some very welcome guests, Adam Ebernickel and Brad Meador, right? Meador? Okay, Brad Meador. Very good. And they're going to each be sharing a good presentation for us. And we've got some of our normal user group giveaways over there on the far table, which will handle those kind of the same way that we usually do. Those of you that come to my meetings, I got some sign-up sheets over there. Just all you need to put is your name on them or whatever information else. And we'll use that for choosing what order for getting the giveaways that we've got. And I believe our two visitors have some special gifts and so on from as thank yous, giveaways, and so on from them. So I'm not going to spend any more time, although I do want to mention one thing. The use of the facility here, Dassault Corporation facility, has been offered to us for using for our user group meetings if we're interested in doing that for the future. So, or at any point in the future. So we'll talk about that and come to an arrangement there. In the meantime, you guys from my group or whatever, or anybody that comes normally to my group, give some consideration. We don't have to make a decision right now, just later on. In the meantime, I'm going to turn this over to your guests for the night here.
All right, go ahead and get this off the presentation. Make some room for Brad to get by. You and me both, brother. You and me both. All right, so yeah, we definitely want to thank you. Echo some of what Jeff said. We really do appreciate everybody coming out to IronSWUG 2023 here in Philly, right? This is the Philly edition, we'll call it. Yeah. All right, awesome. Before we sponsors this year, and if it wasn't for our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to make this happen, right? So whether we do it now or later, we definitely need to thank them. Give them applause, whatever you want to do. We want to just announce those as sponsors, go through them as well, and kind of talk a little bit about them. Altech's a great sponsor. It's the one that Brad and I work for. We got a couple of guys from our Roanoke facility that are here. They sponsored us to be able to make it possible for us to do this trip, right, and allow us to do it and take that time away from our normal functions to come out and get with you guys and teach and give some presentations, some good information out there, rub shoulders, and if you need a job, Altech's always hiring, it seems like, right? So feel free to join Altech's group. So SolidWorks User Group Network, we really want to thank them. Dan Wagner, I mean, if it wasn't for him and the User Group Network, this would definitely not be possible. There wouldn't even be a reason for us to be here, right, without the User Group Network. HP, we want to thank HP. HP's gave quite a bit of funding and different things for this program. We're actually demoing some laptops that they have that are working really well. So I want to go ahead and say that these laptops are awesome, and we do appreciate them letting us use it for the trip and see how their product stands up, and 3D Connection as well. Want to thank our VARs that have sponsored this trip. That's Go Engineer and Trimec. They've came through for us. We got a bunch of them here today. We got some Trimec people, we got some Go Engineer people, and their support and help make this happen and promoting us along the way. I know Heather Hasz is in the chat. I seen her just a minute ago. She's with DriveWorks, and she's always been a phenomenal sponsor, making sure that the SWUG groups have what they need, as well as giving, swag and stuff to give out as well. So we really want to appreciate her. And presentations. Heather Hasz is great for presentations too, and showing what DriveWorks can do. I don't know that I have the video. If you can find it and pull it up, we'll show it midway through during our break. So IronSWUG 2023. This presentation is going to be a little different. I haven't done a presentation in this style before, so hopefully we have fun, and we have a survey at the end that you'll be able to give us some feedback on and see if you think you liked it. Typically I'll go through PowerPoints and I'll talk about topics, whether it's basics or tips and tricks or things that I use, things that I do, a lot of different stuff. But this time we're going to have a little bit more fun. We're going to play a game. If anybody's heard of Kahoot, we're going to go through Kahoot, play a game. If not, if you haven't done it, it's very easy. So we'll be able to do that. You'll just basically use your mobile device to be able to activate it and play the game with us. You can do this here as well as remote. So if you're on the Zoom, go ahead and connect to a remote. You'll see it on your screen here in a minute. I will say for the top 3 that win this game, you guys will get your first choice of door prizes, right? If you're online, Dan said we could just give you a virtual gift card to help facilitate that. You want to, okay. So we do have a DriveWorks video that they asked us to play, so we'll play that during the break. Brad has got that pulled up for us. Before we get started with the game, I do want to introduce myself. I am Adam Ebernickel. I'm a senior designer in the product engineering department of Altec Industries. What do? We do different things like bucket trucks, digger derricks, wood chippers, tree care, a lot of different cool stuff. Just a fun company to work for. I also adjunct in the applied engineering department at Malin Community College. I do about 3 classes a semester there, anything from SolidWorks to industrial safety, a few other stuff there. So I've been doing that for about 10 years, just about as long as I've been working with Altec as well. I am the leader of the Western North Carolina Asheville SWUG group. Been doing that for 7-ish years, I guess. And in the process, over the last 4 years, I got recruited to be on the committee for SWUGing, SolidWorks User Group Network, for the whole Southeast region. So basically Mississippi, Tennessee, down through the Virgin Islands. As well as now that we've been bringing Altec SolidWorks user groups on board, I also help manage those as well. So anything these SWUG groups need, they can come to me. They can go to Dan, of course, if they want to as well, but I can help mitigate some of those questions and things they may have that arise. Also a SolidWorks champion. It's a great group. Not only is Dan a great guy, but Matt Clegg is also a great guy. He helps manage the SolidWorks Champions program. There's a lot of cool stuff, tools that you can use, you can investigate, as well as getting in the community and working on projects to help other people. And then the last thing I'll say out there for myself is that I am a SolidWorks certified expert. So that just one of those things you do, right? And I really encourage people to get certified and do the certifications. I talked a lot about that in my presentation yesterday. But for myself, I think looking forward, I'm gonna try and start doing platform certifications and see where I can go there. Some of the key takeaways today is fun. Just have fun, right? Have fun. Learning is fun. Doing your job, I think, should be fun. And if it's not, let's make it fun. New ways to do things and test your knowledge. That's going to be our key takeaways for today. That being said, let's jump back over here. We'll go ahead and load this game and get started. Putting a game pin. You see me on Zoom, right? Yep. Okay. Okay, so there's a QR code up here. If you have to move around or zoom in, you can. Or you can go to www.kahoot.it and use the game pin that's on the screen. So when you scan that code or you do that, so Brad's already in here. We'll see other people kind of come through and be in here as well. We'll give everybody just a moment. Sorry, I didn't mean to take over the screen again. I was trying to move stuff around.
Sorry, guys.
Oh. Okay, got 4 people in here so far, and you can make up names. You don't have to use your own name, but just know who you are when it comes to door prizes.
Rockin' Randall.
We currently have 5 in the chat. Give everybody just a couple more minutes. And so with a lot of these examples, there's going to be some pretty basic stuff too, just to help people kind of polish up on their skills. So I won't go over everything, but there are some that I'm going to break out into SolidWorks and just kind of demonstrate a little bit and talk about. But for some of the easier ones, I'm not going to. And if I pass one that I didn't talk about and you want to know more about it, let me know and I will break out into those too. Is there anybody in the room still trying to get on the game that hasn't yet? So I know if I need to keep waiting. Okay. There's still people popping in, so we're doing good.
Awesome.
Another 2 more. So if anybody likes pub games, this is going to be right up your alley.
We won't hold you accountable if it isn't.
Did you bring enough for everyone? Went down to 12 just now.
Is there a prize for the lowest score? Heather says.
Is there a prize for the lowest score? Oh, we could.
We have a huge box of pickles over there.
Yeah, we got a huge box of pickles. There you go. Those things leaked everywhere, so I don't know. They may leak the whole way to wherever we're sending them. Okay. Is everybody ready? You still need, you want to go?
Yes.
Okay, real quick. We got assistance coming your way.
Zoom in that far.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not picking the QR code. There it goes. Finally got it.
Okay. So just to, did you get it?
Yeah.
So just to give everybody an idea how this is going to play out while we're getting one more person on here, is you're going to get the question on the board or on your screen at home. And when you get that question, it's going to read it out. So, or you read it, right? And if you're here, I'll just read it for you. You probably hear me through Zoom as well. But you'll have certain buttons you can click on your phone to give the answer to those questions, right? So if it says, I don't know, how do you make a sketch, right? Maybe click the plane and use the sketch symbol. That would be your answer. There'd be a multiple choice answers or a true or false, and you select the answer that's most accurate, and then you'll get awarded points. Not only do you get awarded points by clicking the correct answer, but timing is everything too. So the quicker you answer it, the higher score you get. So let's say 2 or 3 people answer it correctly. The people who answer it correctly the quickest will get a higher score. Okay, so everybody ready? Awesome.
Awesome. I think we're ready to go.
Good to go. We are starting. Going once, going twice,
Uh-oh.
and we are sold. Duplicate a tip and trick. Hold on. There we go. Now we're starting. What key brings your confirmation button to your mouse? The A key, D key, Z key, or C key? It is very bad. No, it's not. I do the same thing. Okay, so most people got it right. We got 6 people that said the D key, 2 said the A key, 1 Z, and 4 for C. So it is the D key. You can see that's correct on here. But the cool thing about the D key, not only does it bring your breadcrumbs down to your mouse wheel for you, it reduces those mouse miles, but I implore you to stick around. And if you, that's, I guess my punch for getting you to join the rest of our meetings like they are doing online today. If you go to IronSWUG.com, which is the site I was just showing the sponsors, IronSWUG.com, the very last tab is your Watch Now tab, right? If you fill your name in that list and give your email, it's not going to anybody but me and Brad. All we're going to use it for is to email you and let you know we're getting ready to go live for that next presentation for the next couple of days. So you'll get one tomorrow, you'll get one on Friday. The reason I say that, and you also get the URL, the Zoom link, which is on the website as well. The reason I tell you that is because I have a cool tip and trick that's going to be showed at our finale in Waltham, that instead of having to hit the D key and bring it to your mouse, it'll always just be at your mouse. All right, next. So here's our scoreboard as of right now and how it stacks up. To rotate a single component within assembly, click and drag using the left mouse button, right mouse button, middle mouse button, any of the above. There we go. So yes, the right mouse button. Yeah, we had a tie between middle and right. So yeah, the right mouse button is going to rotate that singular object in space for you so you can rotate it around and be able to see what you need to click on. And again, some of these basic ones I'm not going to show in SOLIDWORKS, but if you want to see them, let me know. What key will fit what is in the graphic area to the screen? F key, A key, D key, or X button, X key. The F key. Yes, everybody. I'll give everybody a round of applause for that one. Good job, everybody. So we've got some good answers here. It says Miriam has 3 correct answers in a row. So on fire.
Sawyer's walking away.
Yeah. Centering your model about the planes is not ideal. Is this true or false? Centering your model about the planes is not ideal. Now, if you listen to my presentation on Monday, I talked a little bit about this.
How they should be really doing this. You've sat through all the presentations.
13 says false. That's correct. Yeah, centering the model is your symmetrical friend, right? If you center your model, now I preference this when I gave the presentation on Monday, that circumstances going to arise, right, where you have to do certain things. Design intent is going to be your ultimate guide to whatever you're doing, is your design intent. However, centering your model about the plane is going to be your symmetrical friend, because you balance your model out, whether it's sheet metal. Sheet metal definitely plays an instance in that, but it allows you to use mirror features a little bit more easier, as well as using those planes. And I'll talk even more about planes in that presentation, how planes are not only your symmetrical friend, but they are your friend in general. If you build things and do things off your planes, whether it's your features or your mating and your assemblies, that you're really going to do a lot better. Because what happens when you do it off the faces? What happens when you create fillets and then you base something off a fillet or chamfer? You break things pretty quick. Face IDs wind up changing. And so then if you do that, then your other features on down in the tree will break, right? You wind up having some ketchup and mustard in your model. But if you put it in your assembly and you mate things off faces versus planes in your assembly, then you break mates, right? So planes are ideal, and centering things about them is your symmetrical friend. It leads to more elegant modeling. And I think the mnemonic that I used in that presentation is that planes remains as faces change, right? There's a scoreboard. We had a little bit of movement there. What 2 parameters fully define a sketch? dimensions and connections, relationships and mates and fix anchors, dimensions and relationships. That's right, dimensions and relationships. Yeah. Don't like to use anchors a whole lot, right? That's just kind of not really good practice at all. Ooh, Amanda just jumped up. She's on fire. Yeah, those relationships are really cool. Was it, I think that was on Monday as well. I gave, and during that Basics 101 presentation I did, and you'll be able to go back and rewatch this. We'll have a way to get that back out to you, but we'll have all this on YouTube. It's all being recorded. But does anybody know how many, just curious, does anybody know how many relationships are out there? You listen to the presentation. Does anybody else know? There's 31 actual relationships to be had out there. That's a big number, right? What does the freeze bar do? Roll things back to a previous feature, lock features from top down so it doesn't rebuild, freeze everything you are working on, crashes SolidWorks so you can start fresh. There we go. Locks features from the top down so it doesn't rebuild. So I was going to show that in SolidWorks, but it sounds like everybody understands that one. You basically just go to your system options and turn that on. And then you have a bar. So everybody knows what the rollback bar is, where you roll the bar back. You can kind of walk through steps and processes to see if everything's working out right. Or maybe you copied something from a friend and you want to make sure you understand his design intent and process, right? Well, the freeze bar comes from the top down, and it does. It locks everything down. It says, hey, I don't want to rebuild what's above this line. Right? I don't want to take that hit on my rebuild every time I'm doing something new in this part and feature, right? So it really saves you on time, and it solidifies maybe what you've already worked on and allows you to continue working towards the future of what you're working. All right, got a little bit of movement. Paul moved up. Joe Polly moved down. Naming items in your feature tree will help you modify things later. True or false? That's right. I think Brad actually hit this home. Was it yesterday? You talked a little bit about it in your presentations yesterday. That feature tree, naming your feature tree is very pertinent. We've actually deliberated on this a little bit within our company as modeling standards and modeling COE Center of Expertise group of, is it really necessary to name everything? And I think there's some diminishing return, right? Naming things is great. It will help you model things. And guess what? Your neighbor who borrows your model later is going to love you for it, right? But if it's just stuff that's just whatever and it doesn't matter, maybe it doesn't behoove you to name everything and waste your time there. But if it's a standard feature, if it's something that you know somebody will use or you will use later, name it. Not only in your feature tree, but in your design tree when you're in your assemblies and you're mating things, and you have like things, let's say you're doing I don't know, maybe you're building a porch, right? And you have your framing structure for your porch. Put all those 4x4s or 8x8s in one folder. Name that folder. Maybe you have all your top 2x4 planks, right? Put those in one folder. Name it. Huh? Decking boards. Thank you. Had a brain fart. Got my partner here in crime. He's going to help me out. So put those in a folder and name them. What else can you name? You can group your mates and name them too, and that will help you. Again, I think it's one of those use cases. It's maybe not yes for everything, but for the most part, do it, and it'll help you and your friends. But just look for the diminishing return there. All right, Amanda's still at the top. No, not much movement there. What two main things should you customize for efficiency? Mouse gestures and shortcuts, search menu, configuration menu and hotkeys, shortcut bar and status bar. Good job. We got some good answers out there. Mouse gestures and shortcut bar. Huge win, especially if you get into the certification games. You need to really increase your time, reduce your mouse miles. I talked about mouse miles before yesterday, actually, and what they are. But it's basically keeping your mouse isolated and not wandering your mouse all over the screen, right? But those mouse gestures will speed you up. It'll keep your mouse relative to the same location, just like those breadcrumbs we mentioned earlier, as well as your shortcut bar. And I've even known some people like myself, and they say it's a power user move. I've heard in a presentation at World, but not only do I use my S key, but I have my S key, my shortcut bar on my mouse gesture. So there you go. All right, Polly came back up one. You gotta come up another one. You gonna get that prize, Polly. Where can you find any command? Command prompt, command manager, command search, Commander Express.
Cobra Commando.
Cobra Commando, yeah. Yep, command search. Good job, command search. And there's a cool few things about command search, right? So it's actually located in the SolidWorks search bar at the top right-hand corner of your screen. Talked about that in UI. If you want to learn UI terminology when you're talking to your friends and colleagues, it's actually in the search bar or SolidWorks search bar. And you drop down menu, you got the command search. But does anybody know what they did different in 2022 with the command search? S key. They added to the S key. Does anybody know that it was actually part of the S key before? Nobody realized it, but when you hit the S key, your cursor defaulted to the command search and you was able to type in it. Nobody knew it, so guess what? In 2022, they said, we'll just add it to the shortcut bar. That's a battle for that fourth place, isn't it? Where is the fastest place to see any measurement? Status bar, properties manager, feature tree, command manager.
Answers are coming quick.
Yes, they are. We got a smart crowd here tonight. That's right, status bar, and almost everybody got that right. I love the status bar. A lot of people, I think it goes unnoticed so many times. I talked about this again Monday in the Basics 101, that the status bar has a lot of information down there. You can click on a line, get the dimension. You can click on two faces, get the dimension. If faces or lines are different, you can get the angle. You want to know the arc, you can get the radius or the arc, diameters, whatever. You can get all that information from the status bar, even down to knowing if, and this is one of the biggest things I think I drove home Monday, is that if your sketch is corrupt, well, you also know fully defined and undefined, but right there where it says fully defined and underdefined, if your sketch is corrupt and you got ketchup and mustard, you can click on that in the status bar, open the sketch expert, and auto fix your sketch. That's huge when it comes to some of the big sketches that have issues. What key can be held to drag and copy almost anything? Control, Alt, Shift, or Tab? Yeah, Alt F4, right? Yeah, everybody got it pretty much. Control is it, right? You can control drag almost anything, whether it's planes, sketches, parts in an assembly, many different things. One of the cool tips and tricks that I give in my advanced tips and tricks presentation, and I do this at World, is not only can you control drag things within one window or one assembly, but you can have, say, 6 different windows open, stagger them horizontally or vertical, and drag them from one to another. Not only can you do it with those, but you can also do it with your features, your cut extrudes, and other things. But you can even drag a cut extrude from one part to another part in a whole other file across SolidWorks. So just something else. There we go, racking up the scores. You can input equations and SolidWorks will compute them. True or false? That was an instant yes. You can. You sure can. What does SolidWorks equations have to start with in order for them to constantly compute? Plus, minus, divide, or equals? That's right, equals. And I like to drive this home with my students a lot because especially when they're looking at certifications or they're trying to use global variables, because a lot of times they'll throw the global variable in there, go on to the next problem, and they'll say, I updated my global variable. Why didn't anything change? Why do I have the same mass? And I'll go back and say, well, did you equal the global variable? Because if you equal the global variable, then it becomes an equation that will constantly solve, right? And how do you know that it's got the equal sign after you've inputted it? It has a sigma sign in front of it. Oh yeah. If a parent feature is deleted or suppressed, what will the child do? Stick around with no relationship, delete or suppress, hide, stick around and maintain its relationship. That's right. It will delete or suppress. And so that goes back to what I was talking about with the planes earlier and kind of what I talked about in the basics 101 with the planes. If we tie things to planes, we don't have to worry about this happening, right? Because when you go, and I've done it, I've seen it before for myself, where maybe I've went in and I've said, I don't need this up here. I don't need this cutout. Everything else is fine. I just don't need this cutout. And when I do, it deletes some child feature that I've created a dependency off of by a dimension or using that face or that surface or whatever, right? But if I drive things and drive dimensions off the origin and off the planes, those relationships aren't created as solid, right? And then I don't have to then go in and look at, then I don't have to go in and look and trying to determine where the parent and child is connected to unconnect it and then delete it. Right. So yeah, just be conscious with what you're doing and adding those features later on down the tree, that we're not creating so many child dependencies that we can't undo what we want to do. Design intent. In my there's a certain presentation, I can't remember which presentation it is, but I use chess as an analogy. I think it's my advanced sheet metal presentation. I use chess as an analogy that chess players think 3 or 4 moves ahead. And as a designer, we probably should do the same thing. There we go. Paul moved up. Good job, Paul. Tank, what happened to you?
I lost it. I choked.
When you use power trim, holding the shift key will delete, extend, undo, and trim. Extend. We had a little bit of a half and half battle there. Delete and extend. What I'll kind of talk about delete. It's not really a delete, but extend. Yes. So you hold the shift key, power trim has a lot of power. You hold the shift key, you drag back over something or something different. It will extend that line out to the next line. It's an awesome tool. I love it. And in the delete, I don't know if I say it would delete, but there's a little red box, right? If you accidentally extend or trim something, it creates a red box. Does anybody know what happens when we go back over that red box? Puts it back in, correct? Yeah, awesome. It undoes whatever you just did, right? And so I've been at fault where I've trimmed something or extended something I didn't want to, and then not knowing that in the past, I'd release it and hit undo and just undid everything that I did versus just the one thing that I did. Thank you for commenting. Tank moved back up. Press tab over any object will do what? Hide it, delete it, move it, or show it. That's right. It will hide it. Majority rules. It will hide it. There's some other things. I won't go into it just now because I think we have questions on it. So yes. So if you're hovering over any part, it will hide it. It hides it from the front going inwards, right? So that way you're basically hiding the most current thing. True or false? Control Shift tab will allow you to show everything hidden and unhide what you want. Majority rules again, true. Yes, it will kind of pull everything up in a transparency state and allow you to click through the ones that you want to unhide. Using the Alt key while mating an object will hide the part, hide the feature, hide the planes, hide the face. This is a probably less known tool. Talk about this one in my advanced tips and tricks as well. 11, hide the face. Well, a lot of people do know it. Yes, it does hide the face. It's a pretty cool tool. You bring a part in, you want to go to mate it, and you start the mating process. You have to be in the mating property manager at that time, right? So that has to be available. But any surface you're over, if you hit the Alt key, it'll start hiding those faces from the front back, just like it would if you used the Tab key with parts and it hid those from the front back. And then it'll allow you to select the faces behind that you need to select. So I know sometimes we either try and dig around and spin something around and try and find those faces, but just use the Alt key. You can get into whatever you want that way. I shouldn't have fast forwarded that quick. Somebody jumped up. In order to lock a dimension to a certain direction when placing it, you can click the space bar, right mouse button, middle mouse button, or enter. Right mouse button. Yeah, we got a little bit of a discrepancy, a little bit of a tie between spacebar and right mouse button. And what that does, another one that I illustrated on Monday, is that as you've seen in that example, the dimension was kind of going up and then off on the angle and then out to the right. Well, what if you want the dimension to kind of come up, but the number itself to come up, but you want the dimension to go to the right? Well, if you go to the right and click that right mouse button, it'll lock it in that direction and allow you to pull that dimension up. And it'll do that for any location you're in. You can also undo it with the right mouse button, right? And if you watch your screen, not only does it happen here, but in a lot of situations when you're doing things in SolidWorks, it tries to give you intuitive responses, right? So with this example, if you look at the mouse, when you're drawing your dimension, it shows you in the palm of the mouse, there's a lock button, and then it shows you that the right mouse button is grayed out, or not grayed out, but is highlighted so that you can click it. So look for those little things, because there's also some where they have a little check on the right mouse button and you hit it and it'll enter or complete the command for you and stuff like that. So just be looking for those. All right, next one. True or false, SolidWorks files will not show rev levels when opening or open time in the window file explorer. A half and half. I'm gonna you look under the general tab and you check this highlighted area I've got showed that says show thumbnail graphics in window. If you do that, it'll give you some extra information in your file explorer. When you hover over it, you can see in the middle picture here, it shows you the rev level. It tells you how many sheets are there. It tells you the size, but it also tells you how long it took to open last time. You know when you get ready to open and say, oh man, this is large assembly. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee while I'm opening this one. You can you got 5 minutes to be back, right? So that's some pretty cool information. Now, another thing, if this is in a thumbnail view, right, or a large image view, right, in your file explorer, if you have it like the window behind that and it's in a detail view, you can right click across the top where it says name and all that information in your detail view, right click, and it gives you a window to show what to list and what to sort by. You can go in there and add those columns there. As you can see in this bottom left, it's showing where I've got SolidWorks last save time or SolidWorks open time checked off. So that's just some cool information that you could see before you even start to open a file, what you're getting yourself into. And again, it's under general, show thumbnail. I also like to tell people, if you don't know where something's at, just think thumbnail, go to your system options, because in your system options, there's also a search command there. All you got to remember is a word or a part of a word, and it'll search for you between the system options and the document properties. Awesome. Sawyer's back up. The selection tool can help you find identical components, select mated to, open and large model quickly, all the answers. All the answers. And I'll probably do this. I'm gonna throw it on my brainstorming board, right? I talked to somebody in here earlier how I've got a spreadsheet and I just throw brain farts on there all the time of presentations I think I might want to give. And then I talk to leaders and say, okay, I'm coming. What do you want to hear? Right. And this is probably one I just need to go ahead and add because I've talked about it enough that you could probably do a full hour presentation or better just on the selection tool. There is so much information in the selection tool on what you can do, what you can grab, how you can select identical components. One thing that I talk about, I think in advanced tips, is how if you have a part and you want to select a bunch of something, you don't want to dig through the feature tree. It may be scattered and littered through your feature tree, right? Well, you can go to this drop down menu on your selection tool and click select identical components, select that component, and it'll pick them off for you, right? Again, I'll go ahead and put my seed in for the finale that we have that I'm going to be showing a really cool tip and trick on the Friday presentation about the selection tool and how to make opening large models much more efficient for what you're working on just by using the selection tool. Stay tuned for Friday. Amanda's put back up. Got a fight going on for a second. In order to help correct mating issues, you can group mates, sort mates, hide mates, and comment on mates. It's a little tricky. I can see it, people saying different things. Group mates. Yes, you can group mates. It almost sounds like it should be sort mates in a way, right? But it's grouping mates. Because basically what you'll do is you'll go to your mates and you'll right click, group those mates, and it'll group them based on red, yellow, or defined, over defined, can't define, or defined, right? So it'll group them in those three categories. I think Brad may have touched on this yesterday. And then once you group those mates, you can hit your top hitters and try and fix those. Because sometimes those top hitters that are over defined is going to cause your can't define to happen, right? And so if you can group them, you can solve them a lot easier. Otherwise, again, it's kind of like that littered through the feature tree. It's littered through your mates folder and you're trying to go down through there. Well, I think I see a red one here. No, maybe there's a red one here. There's yellow in there. And you're trying to figure it out that way, right? When you just group them together, it lumps them together and it actively changes them. So if you suppress one or you fix one, it'll actively move it out of that grouping to something else and allow you to see real time your updates and your fixes and changes. There we go, back in second again. We're bouncing back and forth there. In order to help fix a sketch with ketchup and mustard, you can, I talked about this a minute ago if anybody was listening, when I talked about the status bar. A sketch expert, that is correct. Something else cool with the sketch expert is that not only can you click it in the status bar down where you're fully defined and your underdefined live, you can click it there and it'll pull it up and help you auto fix those sketches, right? It'll come up and it'll say, there's 5 solutions possible to fix this sketch, and you can toggle through them and see which one you like the best and then let it solve that sketch and fix it for you. You no longer have the ketchup and mustard. One step more than that, a professional or a pro tip and trick, I guess, or power user tip and trick, there's a box you can check in there that will automatically pull the sketch expert open every time if you have ketchup and mustard and you open that sketch, it automatically goes to sketch expert for you. You don't even have to do it yourself. All you got to do is check that box. And it is a sticky setting. So if you check it, it stays checked. If you uncheck it, it stays unchecked. True or false? When using isolate, there are multiple display types. The answer is true. There are. Does anybody know the different display types? So there it comes up. What does isolate do? Does anybody want to elaborate on pretty much what isolate's doing for you? Yeah, it's basically hiding everything and showing what you want. Well, next in your isolate box where it says exit isolate, there's a drop down in there. You can change it from hide, right, which is what it defaults to, or transparent, where it makes everything transparent but what you want to see, or wireframe, basically from what everything else you want to see. Now, another power user tip and trick is because it hides everything that you want to see, what else can you use? We just talked about it in another question. Control-Shift-Tab. So once you've isolated, hold Control-Shift-Tab and bring back what you want. You can unhide what you want. Maybe you isolated too much, right? Or if you didn't isolate enough, well, just hide the one that you left with tab, all right? What key will allow you to use mouse gestures while on a part? I know this is a big frustration for people. Shift, Control, Control, Shift, or Alt. If you're zoomed in and you've got this large assembly and you want to use your mouse gestures, you can't just hold down the right mouse button and go over your mouse wheel. It won't let you. It tries to select it or rotate it or do whatever it's doing. Yes, the Alt key, and we got a little bit of a war between the Alt key and Control Shift, but the Alt key is the correct answer. If you are on top of your part zoomed in and you can't quite find that graphics area space in the background somewhere, hold the Alt key, your mouse gestures will be activated. So Alt key plus right mouse button, of course. Just want to clarify that. Steve just bumped up. How many different sections can be done at one time? This has always been there, just people don't realize it a lot of times. I'm almost giving the answer away with the picture. That's right, three of them. We kind of got a broad spectrum of answers there, but 3 is the correct answer. And it's really neat because you can really narrow down and use that section to pull different planes and push it and pull it. Like I said, that picture illustrates it pretty well. A lot of people just use the singular section view, and that's all they've done. That's all they've lived with, and that's all they'll probably ever use because they never realize that you can do it 2 other times, a total of 3. All you do is scroll down and expand that area and then select the next face or surface or whatever you want to start your section off of. Push and pull those planes, right? That triad in and out, that global wheel, rotate it however you want and go to the third one. You can do the same thing on the third one. And it may be overkill for some people, but at the same time, if you're working on a large assembly and you really just need to get into a certain area and see things a certain way, maybe that's what you need. Maybe that's the tool you need. Oh, that was a jump. Sawyer just took the lead. What key will show the shortcut bar? We mentioned this earlier. S key. That was awesome. Everybody answered it. True or false? Control plus drag will not be used to copy features and parts from other windows. I mentioned this one earlier too. I hate when I get ahead of myself and give out answers. Bad, Adam, bad. The answer is false. It can be used. So yes, you can have multiple windows open within SolidWorks and display them horizontally and vertically. And drag them right across, drag parts across, grab sketches. Sketches can be a little bit more difficult. They can, I've had them cause issues a little bit for me, but yeah, features drag them across and stuff like that. It works well. Do me a favor, take a picture of this.
So you can get a.
Yeah.
Could have just done a screenshot.
I could have. What does Shift C do? Close everything, copy everything, create a circle, collapse everything in the feature tree. There it is. Yeah, it collapses everything in the feature tree. And that's so useful, especially in large assemblies. When you're in there doing all your modeling and mating and whatnot, it really blows your feature tree and expands it out. And the Shift C key is probably one of my most used hotkeys for sure.
The good prank to find on somebody is if you're walking by their desk and they've got a large assembly open, click in their feature tree discreetly and then hit the asterisk key on the number pad. It explodes the entire feature tree out to every sketch and every plane and everything. And if it's a large enough assembly, we'll keep them from working for a couple seconds.
Yeah. And then hopefully they know the Shift C key.
Great prank to play on somebody.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's our last slide. We'll see what the top three were. I took a picture too, so because I know Tank was in the running. We're gonna kick him out.
What? Ugh.
Amanda is number 3. Tank is number 2. And in the spotlight is Sawyer. Yep. So we'll remove Tank. What was the fourth one? What are you saying?
It popped up there for a second. Hit next, I think it shows ball.
I think next kills it. Yeah, next kills it.
Back. You go. Paul and Simon.
Paul. Yep. So let's see. Amanda was second. Sawyer was first. Amanda. And then Paul. Paul. Back here. Okay. So they will get the option of the first door prizes when we get there. And we will now take, what time do we have? Yeah, 7:30. So we will now take a 10-minute break for water, coffee, drinks, bathrooms. If you need a bathroom break, they're down the hall. So just go out the main glass door, right, left, down the hall. We'll either have somebody there at the door for you. Okay, Dan's going to man the door for us for bathrooms. Come back in about 10 minutes after you get that break done, and Brad will give his presentation.
All right, so we get started. My name is Tank. I am a husband, a dad, a motorcycle minister. I'm a technology nerd and electrical engineering student because with all the stuff I do, might as well add or subtract any amount of actual usable sleep I get by adding something else to it. I'm a project designer at Altec Industries. I work in the new product development group. So I do a lot of things with structures and hydraulic design, bringing new products to life and breaking them before our customers can. It's really a lot of fun. I love my job and I've been there 10 years and they're fortunate. I'm fortunate enough that they let me do this. Also the Star City SolidWorks user group leader out of Roanoke, Virginia. And as of 2 weeks ago, I am now the Mid-Atlantic Regional SWUG Committee representative for the user group network. Okay, awesome. I've never had anybody clap for me like that before. Yes, mission accomplished. All right, I'm also a SolidWorks champion, so I get to do and hang around with, get to do all the champion stuff with Matt Clegg and get to try out the new software and whatnot, along with all the other, I think it's 500 champions we have in the system. And I'm also a certified SolidWorks expert. Oh, no. There we go. All right. So key takeaways. We're going to go over some pros and cons of configurations, the creation and management. And I threw a case study in from our company and some best practices as well. Please feel free to stop and ask questions, stop me and ask questions, including in the chat as well. I like going back and forth, not just yelling at people or talking like the teacher out of Charlie Brown, just people just hear noise. So first and foremost, what's the configuration? Huh? Awesomeness. Okay, that's a good answer. Anybody in the chat have an answer? Oh, apparently I'm the world's fastest beard grower according to the chat. All right, so in SolidWorks, it allows users to maintain multiple variations of a part or an assembly in a single file document. So differences in configurations are set by changing dimension values, suppressing features, changing mates by, for orientations of parts, extended, retracted, open, closed, that kind of thing. And just changing all the parameters that you need for the part and just overall design intent. So what's the benefit of configurations? Somebody who said it was the best thing ever. What's the benefit of configurations? Well, I mean, you did answer. Less files to manage, yes. Anybody else? Convenience with an assembly is to swap them. Yeah, that's a good one. Anybody else? Say that again.
3D drawing is so much quicker.
Yes.
Turn on and off configurations to clarify something in your detail drawings.
Yes, you can. That's one way to do it. And we're going to go into a case study where we found a faster way to do it. We'll kind of go into some of that as well. So, multiple variations of part in existing designs in single file. Our company has been around since 1929. Obviously, not everything that's been designed is a SolidWorks file, but we do have years and years of data, and some of them have 50, 60 configurations in it, because prior to implementing PLM, it was a lot easier to do that than it was to maintain those 50, 60 assemblies or weldment files inside of a file structure. So in part files, it allows the users to create families of parts with different features, different dimensions, and different properties. Also, if you use sheet metal, inadvertently, if you don't use configurations much, but inadvertently, you get a derived configuration as part of your practicing. So if you don't use configurations currently and you mess and you do a little bit of messing or designing with sheet metal, you're doing it, you just don't quite understand, or you just don't quite get to dig deep into it. It's just a flat or a folded view. So in assemblies, translation of parts, I've heard somebody say hide and show parts as well. Or you can do assembly stages. But again, we're going to kind of dive into a little bit of a case study to kind of show some of the cons with that as well. Okay, how do we create configurations? Is there only one way to do it? Multiple ways to do it? It's SolidWorks to give you, it's like a Swiss Army knife. It gives you pretty much any way you want. What are the ways? Configurations tab. Equations. So you can do the manual with the configurations tab. You can do Excel-based design tables. And then now in 2022, they actually have a configurations table that opens up inside the software natively that you can go through and create configurations. So we're going to kind of jump into that. use my R key as my one of the little quick tips and tricks about opening up a quick file. But did you know that you could also grab and drag another part from this into another assembly? We'll show that a little bit just for fun as well later. So we got our configuration. We can come in here and add. Name the configuration. Number 1, as in I'm the best presenter tonight. Number 1. All right. Wait. So we don't want to put that in there. We need to put it in the comments. Does anybody use the comments inside of SolidWorks? No? So now we've got our configuration. Now, Excel-based design tables, I'm not sure, does anybody use those anymore, or has everybody kind of gone back into just doing manually or using this configuration table? Do you use them with the Excel sheets? Okay, we use them with the configuration table? Okay, that's good. Before we get into that, go into our system properties, and we have the
old company used 100% of the files.
100% of the files. Oof. That is that's a thing. Interesting. All right. So if you have not messed around with the configuration tables and whatnot inside of your software, we'll just kind of show how to cut it back on, cut it on. So in 2022 and in 2023, there is a create configurations table on open button that could be set up by your CAD admin automatically for your software image, or you just can come in here and click it on as an option. So just something to make be aware of. Interestingly, we found a bug today in 2023, we think, that didn't have this option for 2023 connected. So we had to jump back to my work machine, which is why I'm not using the HP today. So, all right. So upon opening, we can come in here, show table. We'll create a new configuration. Through the configuration table. All right, does anybody want to help me name this one? Isaiah?
Number 2.
Fine. All right. It's that easy. Great. And just keep going down. And the best part is we can come in here and we can manage everything inside this configuration inside, just like the design table. Oh no, my mouse is moving too fast for me today. Let's see. I haven't really taken a look and see if that actually works or not. Let's see if I break the model and blow it up. No, it didn't actually blow up. Good. It actually worked that time. I have a tendency sometimes to go over exaggerate with the dimensions, and it blows it up a little bit, makes it ketchup and mustard on the screen. Let's see. Did it work? Yes. No errors. Cool. So a little bit of symbology in here inside of how to create configurations. We kind of skipped ahead a little bit. Manually created. What about that one? What is that? What does that symbol? We're going to do a little trivia now. What is it? Design table. Okay. What about that one? Derived. With an explode step or a derived. Derived design table. Okay. Oops, I went ahead. What does that one mean? It's a box with a check mark by it. This kind of gives you a little bit of ideas on what to look at when you're going through your feature tree. Does anybody know what that means? means your data set's up to date. So if you've got multiple configurations inside of a part file, it gives you just a quick glance at all the configurations in your tree and kind of shows that the actual thing is loaded correctly and all the files are up to date. But that, can everybody see that okay? Kind of hard to blow these little icons up to full screen. It's the configuration icon with a save icon, or floppy disk for us people that were born pre-1990. Data set generates on next save, so you can set them up that way. I heard somebody say it pretty quick before I clicked it. About this one. Yep, you got it. And of course, I just showed this one. Shh, quiet you. Sure. It's config table, configuration table. So just some icons and a little symbology here to kind of go through and help you out while you're creating your configurations. So you got best practices. So I know you said that you were using configurations to hide and show components. Over time, we found out that that actually slowed down our performance, and we're going to go over a case study here in a second, and kind of show you why we figured it out. And we confirmed this with SolidWorks and with our multiple VARs on this thing. So for assemblies, component location change. For parts, we, at least in Altec and the other places that I've given this presentation to, we like to say significantly similar parts. So you want something that's got one variable or one parameter change per file. So if you've got a bolt, it's of different length. You've got a piece of pipe, different length, they're cut, uncut. Again, sheet metal, bent, flat, that kind of thing. Just gives you a little bit of a little bit more structure to your files, as well as keeps those file sizes down. And then obviously not for hide show components. What would you use instead of hide show for hide show components instead of configurations? Okay, good. Before we go into our case study, I'm going to show off some of my shame. So I want you guys to learn from my mistakes. Let's see, where did my now it moved. Okay. One of my biggest things that we have to keep in our PLM system. I want you to take a look at the feature tree. Is my face red? Because it looks as red as the problems on the screen. This is a single file with that many configurations in it. And every one of those configurations now requires me to maintain in our PLM system with all the problems in it. Initially, we had set this thing up so that we could keep it in one file. This was back before PLMs or PDMs that we had implemented in our system, and we wanted one file for this lower boom weldment. And as you can see, it ended up causing lots of problems. We got things that aren't loaded. We've got problems with mates. We've got this right here was the original design table in here. It's a hot mess. We thought we can keep everything in this one file. We can update all the prints at once this way. Hide and show parts, move parts around, change the left and right, that kind of thing. Now we are, I would say, stuck with this until we obsolete this file. So every time somebody opens this file, they have to, by our best practices, fix every mate and every file problem. And most of the time, they just do it in the single configuration they're working on. Has anybody ever done this? Created a problem for themselves by not Not know you fix something in one configuration and then you go back 3-4 years or 6 months and you open up another configuration of the same assembly and it looks like that. So now every time somebody opens this, they call me, "Hey, Dum Dum, what are you doing? I need you to fix this for me because I'm not doing it." So now I'm the one stuck fixing it. So again, learn from my mistakes. Don't do this. Anybody in the chat ever done that before? No? At least nobody smart enough to say yes.
Well, they're smart enough not to say yes. Never. Josh says never.
Ah.
He's a laughing stock.
We're going to take that as a solid yes. All right. So at Altec, we build large assemblies. And we have those large assemblies stuck even in bigger, large assemblies. Full trucks with chassis components like axles, gas tanks, frame rails, swoopy figure of the cabs. And we realized that we were having problems downloading stuff from our PLM and opening them on our either on our laptops or on these massive desktops that we started buying. We were over-engineering the computers for things that we caused. We figured out that, was it Adam says the number one cause to most computer problems is the connection between the seat and the keyboard? Well, we were causing our own problems, and through extensive meetings with Go Engineer and TriMech, actually we got both sets of VARs and I don't know, 15 of us, 20 of us at Altec to a facility, and we sat down for a week and we went through everything we did in a model, everything we did in an assembly, everything we did in a drawing, how we opened, how we saved. We even looked through computer specs, network specs, even the wireless routers, trying to figure out what was causing our problem. Turns out it was us and bad practices with assemblies, with models, with file sizes and things that were causing the issue. But, that's because we just didn't know. We didn't know how the software calculated things. We didn't know, that kind of background data that happens when you create configurations and when you create drawings and how big the files get. So as you see here, we have a single assembly with 7 pages of a print. Pretty standard, right? You've got a bill of material on the page. You've got an exploded view with the balloons on the next page. You got another more detailed view with some parts hidden. We've got some cutaways. We got exploded views on all the other pages. We even got a side view with even, if you can see down on the bottom, we've got some even hydraulic fittings orientations. So when the person is putting it together, they know which way to kind of orient the fittings. And one of our designers decided he was just done dealing with this thing. He would go to download this file, would take 10, 15, 20 minutes to download the file and another 10, 15 to open and reverse it. Oh, I'm going to go save. Might as well go get a coffee, go talk to my boss, walk around the building outside. And he just got tired of it, tired of dealing with this model. So went through and decided to do a little digging. This is what he found out. The model itself was created with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 11 configurations. Each configuration was linked to a certain view to show an assembly step or an exploded view. But, it kind of makes sense. Let's see, why is that? Let's just move it up here so you can see everything. And every configuration was in there. Now, do you know what happens when you load multiple configurations in one print? Have you kind of done a little digging in the file itself? It's got to load that file. So it's got to load that file every time, reload that file. over and over and over again. So it's creating kind of a loop of opening and opening and opening. And it just kept going multiple times. So this user decided, thank goodness it wasn't me, because this would have made me pull what's left of my hair out. He was going to go through and blow this thing up. And instead, well, no. There we go. One configuration with multiple exploded views, and decided to use the display state feature instead of configurations. Still got the same results, right? Everything looks the same. He realized at that point you can pro tip, copy exploded views from one configuration to another. He didn't know that. We didn't know that at the time, because we just, you know, here you go, here's your laptop, get to work. We didn't, at the time, we weren't really doing this kind of deep diving into our files. You know, the next page will kind of show the time savings. So instead of configurations, have anybody used the display states instead of in this way rather than configurations? I see a couple head nods. I see some opposites. So we got results. With the configurations, 260 seconds to open the drawing. Swim save for us is saving it into our PLM system. 939 seconds to save the drawing into our PLM. Drawing size was 10 megabytes and the assembly size was 52 megabytes, which really added, you know, the weight of that into opening and closing and kind of messing with it. Well, after multiple days of fixing this, he was able to get the open time with the display states from down to 100 seconds, which was a 61% improvement. The swim save was 66, roughly 67% time savings, which was 10 minutes saved for closing. So now he couldn't get up and go drink coffee anymore. He actually had to do work. I'm not sure if he liked that or not. The drawing size went down 30% and the assembly size went down 42%. Now that was just with our data. So it could vary based on what PLM system you're using, you know, the kind of modeling you do, if you're doing top-down design, or if you're, you know, it just really depends on your circumstance. But I'm just kind of giving you some best practices that we've learned over time with Altec itself. So does that surprise anybody? Because we had no clue that this was what was causing our problems. We actually did this ourselves. And even now we have configurations like that, like this model here. We're kind of stuck with it. We got multiple assemblies, multiple things. Now we can't now with our PLM system break this up anymore. But display states wouldn't have worked in our situation at the time. And when this was implemented, again, we were using our folder structure to begin with. So just some words of advice, words of, I guess, caution if you're going to do configurations. But with this, we were able to implement some company-wide, like Adam says, with our modeling COE or our modeling standards group, we were able to implement some time-saving measures, and we're able to get down file sizes. And now we're not having to actually go out and buy the massive laptops or I mean, they're pretty big, but the massive computers with extra RAM, you know, the largest processor, whatever. We were able to kind of downsize, save our company some money, and work a little bit more efficient. So no, yes. Correct. Yes, they're just that's one of the things we put in our internal modeling standards now is if you're going to do a hide show component or do a section view or do anything that requires just a drawing view change, don't do configurations. The only thing we're using configurations for, especially for the assemblies now, is translated parts. You know, if you're rotating something, extending something, you know, that kind of thing.
Sure, component mounted in different locations, better to have that like in each location and use display states to hide the other locations, or would it be better to have configurations where you like suppress certain mates to relay that stuff?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I would say that would probably depend on how you display that in your bill of materials and how you want that to calculate your quantities and stuff.
Yeah.
Just hiding and showing is gonna not get rid of your quantities. You would have to not show it in your bill of materials, or you would have to suppress it, create configuration.
So yeah, what Adam was saying, I don't know if anybody heard in the chat, it just all depends on, we have a question of if you have one part or a couple parts and they're being moved in different locations for an assembly, are you talking about something like lights or, you know, access step or?
Spots.
Oh, okay.
So you have like a location for a certain bolt. Should you put the bolt model in 3 times and then use display states to hide the other 2, or should you have one bolt model with 3 different mates, and then in each configuration go through and suppress the mates that don't apply to that location?
Okay. Yes. So I'm going to repeat it just so the people in the chat. So if we have a bolt or something bolted in multiple locations, and then do you want the configurations to, or do you want to use configurations to show that, or do you want to use display states? So sound off in the chat if you have an answer. But again, it could be based on, you guys said bill of material. Is this going to be used more than once on the truck for the bill of material? Do you need like 2 of that or just one that's moved? Okay.
Yeah, you definitely have to watch your usage in your bill of materials. If you're gonna show it in the bill of materials, it's gonna pull through.
Yeah.
And how it's counted.
So yeah, that would be an interesting
Yeah,
case. Hold
yeah.
on.
Josh Myers says the same thing. You can exclude from bomb. That's what I was.
Oh, we can do it exclude from bomb. Yeah, and put it in multiple locations, exclude from bomb, then hide what you don't want to see
That's
for
basically-
display states.
That's basically what I was saying.
Okay, that was a good explanation there, Jeff. I like that. Good question. Any more before I go on? Okay. So again, my presentation is a little shorter because I like doing question and answer and things, but I have a call to action with, we do ours call to action. So practice some configurations, practice with your display states, you know, build a little model here and there and try to do, you know, if you want to do a case study with your company, build an assembly that's really large, and run some display states or run some configurations and try to prove what to do and share it with your coworkers. Kind of give them an idea, show them what you can do with them or without them. Say if you decide not to go with those configurations. I guess it really just depends on if you're using a PLM, a PDM, or if you're just using an overall folder structure, depending on, or if you're using the platform. And then ask questions anytime. Feel free to reach out to your VARs, reach out to the experts in your company. You know, granted, you guys are here learning, so I would assume most everybody in here is really in-depth modeler, super modeler with it, with SolidWorks. And I'm assuming most people come to you guys for questions, correct? I got a couple chuckles. That's good. And you know, I'll put up my contact information here in a minute. Reach out to me if you have questions. I'm always answering questions via email, LinkedIn, all that stuff. You know, I love helping people. This is one of the things I like to do, teach and help people expand their careers. So with that, any questions? I need a cricket sound effect. Yes. Mhm.
That's pretty much built in my case. So I never have thousands of parts. I never have hundreds of variation from these components because we have a limited number of them to begin.
Okay.
So, from my imagination, it's probably will be equal gain to go one way or another. Is that correct?
Yes, probably. If in that situation where you don't have tons of parts and you don't have a lot of variation, you can do those configurations in those models. Like it just depends on your situation. This is just the way we came up with ours, and yeah.
Maybe 150, biggest case, one configuration with these parts. It's the biggest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and something else we always like to preference anything when we give presentations, especially about certain specific items, is design intent is gonna play everything, right?
Yep.
And one envelope doesn't work for everybody's letter they're trying to mail, right? That's why SolidWorks allows so many different ways to do things, because everybody's use case is different. One thing we have noticed is he's kind of talking about what you said, you may not have the large assemblies with all these different parts and thousands of parts and stuff. Where configurations can play a great role is in, say, singular parts like bolts and screws. If you're changing size and lengths and that kind of stuff, that's a great way to use configuration. That may be more your use case, and that's a great way to use it.
Unless you're using like the toolbox feature or something like that.
Yeah, that's on the pro side.
Yeah, and we've actually now started diving into using like on a part, a simplified configuration of a part. So we've got a square, roughly a square part with, I'll tell you what, we'll just open up an example here.
Or they can stay tuned for Friday. Because we have that in a good part of that in our Friday presentation.
Tell you what, I'm just going to give you a sneak peek.
Okay.
All right, let's say you got this adapter plate and you've got it mated using the planes. So none of the holes really are used in anything but the machining print. You've got this part in a 5,000 part assembly. It is 4 assemblies deep, sub-assemblies deep. We're going to run our performance evaluation here. We're going to see, it's a fairly simple part, uses 0.09 seconds to rebuild. And you can see, all the percentage of time that opens. So if this part, 5, 6 assemblies deep, or 4 or 5 assemblies deep, I just keep adding more to it just to make it more complicated. Why not create a simplified configuration with just the main mating pieces to it? Run your performance evaluation again. It goes from 0.09 to 0.02 seconds to load, to rebuild. That's where we've started running into ways to speed up performance. So maybe that's something you can utilize in your parts itself. That's another alternative use for it.
Back to Polly, Josh Mays actually put another comment, I think, in relation to what you were talking about. He said also a trick I used for kids was to pattern a component on top of itself to get XX number of instances that he wanted in the BOM, while only one instance shows in the drawing view for loose parts.
Okay. So if you wanted 9 of them, you would pattern it 9 times over itself?
We tend to do that actually on our body side. So like we've got hidden components that are maybe picked up in bulk charges, right? And so they don't need to be shown, but they need to be calculated on the bill for people to pick and put on the doors or whatever the case may be. And so we actually have a display state or for those, I think maybe even big configuration that basically just eliminates everything, suppresses it all, and it's not shown. And then we do the same thing he just talked about. We just add, and it could be like, 1/16 of an inch gap or distance, and just how many parts you need. They're just in their self, hidden in the model.
Yeah. So like Adam said, it's all based on your work practice. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Mhm.
Tomorrow's presentation, I talk about my peripherals, what I use and are my peripherals for you. This is my presentation for tomorrow in Albany. So if you want to stay tuned and watch that, I talk about my setup. What do I use? I don't touch the keyboard. And sometimes I have a 3D connection space mouse that I put in the middle. I have a macro pad on my left side. And I have this macro Logitech mouse on this side with, I don't know how many buttons on it. And I've got, with the Logitech software, I can go in and set macros and button combinations, everything. I'm literally, this is my spot. I'm ergonomic, right? I'm kicked back, my feet. I think it's why my older son's doing engineering now, because he's seen dad come home, start working from home. My feet are kicked up like this, and I'm like this the whole time. He's like, Dad, you got it made. And that's the way I work, right? The only time I come back to my keyboard is when I'm typing an email to Dan that he doesn't read.
No, but you're right. I actually, in one of my presentations at World a few years ago, I showed even with the simple the 3D space mouse, yeah, putting the radial buttons on the side and then showing like a time savings by 3D Connection. They showed us a time savings of, you know, being able to rotate the part around and click the buttons and you know, not using your keyboard. But we do recommend that to our users. Do some of them take it? No. A lot of them go, I don't need this thing. I bump it and moves my screen and I don't like it. They have it set too sensitive and they just don't take the time to do it. But then we have some that, you know, use it all the time.
Really want to get fancy. We have a team that we classify, we call them the ACE team. They take macros. So we used to have, it used to be Wild West at Altec, right? Roanoke would develop a macro they needed. Burnsville would develop a macro needed. Midwest would develop, and everybody was doing their own thing, making macros everywhere. So we brought in one house under one umbrella, said, okay, we're creating the macros. Brad and I do alpha testing for those macros, and when they come out and they change them or update things. And we've got a toolbar, and this, I think you talked about this, I've talked about it in my tips and tricks of creating your own toolbar, naming it your own name.
Yep.
Throw your macros on there, and then you can even link hotkeys to it too if you want.
So yeah, we have our own macros up in here for things like we can create a drawing out of the part, select the template we want, hit OK. It'll actually go through, create the print, drop the views in. And then
It's just from everybody being Wild West and saying, okay, this is good, this is good, this is good. We're going to combine it, and then just, you know, really try and help mitigate some of that. And instead of saying, yeah, go make a macro, we actually have under tools in the ACE column, we actually have a place where people can give suggestions.
Yep.
On macros
Yep.
to create.
so you can go in here and submit an ACE idea for something that somebody wants to do. We actually have a guy who,
It opens up a dialog box. Yep.
so it opens up a DTM task, digital task management. Oh, I don't have the permissions. I don't have it logged in currently in the system on our network. But yeah, it allows us to submit ideas for macros and things like our check for overwritten dimensions button,
That's great.
because we inevitably have users that are interns or co-ops and they put a dimension in and it's not right. It's you know, they want something that's 3 1/4. Instead, they put it as 3. It's modeled at 3.257.
Model health checker is probably our best one that we have to try and get people to look at their models and see what they're doing. And so this goes through and checks for material status. It checks for underwritten or overwritten dimensions, version histories, graphics triangles. It'll check and see how high you have your image image quality settings. And some of it will actually, you can click the button, it just goes in and fixes it. So we've delved into the API to actually initiate some of that. So if you get into
Yes.
the API and read through some of that stuff, you can do some really cool stuff to make your job a lot more efficient.
Yeah, so a lot of this stuff's already there in the software. We just pull it all together in one screen for all of our users. Yeah.
And it'll even tell you, so like if you have underdefined sketches and stuff, you can click on it and it'll tell you which sketch it is. And so then you just go to your filter in your tree, go to this, type in, say 14, 15, whatever, it'll open the sketch for you, and then you just go in and fix it, make sure you're not leaving.
So
Because the reason why is it's the little things, right? And I talked about this in another presentation, that the little things is what makes the big picture work, right? If you've got bad dimensions and bad modeling practices, and then I make this model, yeah, it's not affecting me too bad. I put it in my assembly, okay, it's starting to affect me too bad, but it's not affecting me. And then I give it to this gentleman over here, and he uses it in his top level assembly. And now he's using 5, 6, 7 of them. And then he's like, why is it running so slow? Well, it's not his fault. It's because I gave him junk.
So yeah, that was good. I like that. I like advocating for those 3D connection products. In anything like the Logitech mice, macro pads, the big gaming keyboards with all the extra buttons and lights, and even better if they're really clicky and annoy your coworkers. I have the green, is it brown keys in mine? Extra loud, extra clicky, and my coworkers now have noise canceling headphones. So they don't have to hear me type. So good conversations. I love having conversations. I don't like just talking and discussing with people. It's good.